Hello and welcome to the Jira Service Management REST Ticketing Connector Template Modification Guide. In this guide, we're going to show you how to modify the default templates that come with the Jira Service Management REST Ticketing Connector. To start, we're going to select our instance called Jira Demo and click Configure. We're then going to head over to the Template tab. And here you can see all of the templates that come by default with the Jira ticketing connector. Now we're only going to worry about modifying the ones that say Jira, the ticket type, and then create an update. You can see there's quite a few of these. The other three, get ticket request, create ticket request, and get ticket response, are how Jira and Oracle Enterprise Manager communicate with one another and shouldn't be edited. So to take a look at template modification, let's select one of these and click Edit. Let's make this a little bit bigger for our editing purposes. And before we get started, I want to point out that it does say to remember to back up all of your files before editing. That way, if anything goes wrong, you have the one from the past to come back to. Now, first, let's take a look at the template itself. I want to first point out our variables. Here you can see all the different variables that are set up with the REST ticketing connector. First, we have our action variable. This tells us later in the template whether we're doing a create action or an update action. We then have our severity and priority variables, and those map, for example, severity maps our Oracle Enterprise Manager severity to our Jira severity. So we can see a fatal is a Sev 0, a critical in OEM is a Sev 0 in Jira, and then it goes down through warding and advisory being a Sev 1 and Sev 2. Very similarly with priority, we have urgent being our highest priority in Jira and low being our low, and a whole bunch of values in between. If you'd like to change any of these, we can go in and, for example, let's say we want our low priority in Jira to be a in OEM to be a medium priority in Jira. We can just change the value like that. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further to what we call the body. So if we scroll down, we can see the body. And in the body, we can see we have a first action is on create. So all of this happens when we create a ticket in Jira. We have a number of different fields, like the issue type, where we can see that this is the incident. And this is because we chose that incident template to edit. But in the other templates, you might see something like a bug or a story here. We have our summary, which is the title of the Jira ticket. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we have our main description. And this is where all the details come to our Jira ticket. So in here, if you want to add additional data, you could add it here. Or if you wanted to remove something like target type or target name, you could remove these and they would no longer show up in any future tickets. Now, where I want to go is a little bit further down, where we can see a whole bunch of different components that are edited out by default. In Jira, they have a lot of different fields that are available to you, but aren't necessarily enabled by default. In the ticketing connector, we have fields for these for the Jira components, the reporter ID, the fixed version, time tracking, the environment, the affected versions, the due date, and whoever you would like to assign it to. And all of these can be simply uncommented and added with a custom value to add them in. So let's take an example with the component field in Jira and show you what it looks like to add that in. Now, the first thing we have to do is verify that our incident ticket type in Jira has components enabled. To do that, we're going to navigate over to Jira. As you can see, I've already logged into my Jira instance. I'm in my ITSM project, which is what our ticketing connector is connected to. I'm going to scroll down and go to our project settings. In our project settings, I'm going to select the issue types. And from there, I'm going to click on incident. When I click on incident, it's going to show me all of the fields that are enabled for the incident. I'm going to search for our component field. I don't see it in here. And so if I want to enable it, I can go into select field, scroll through the available components or field and select components. Now components is a part of the issue target type. Now the next thing I have to do is know what components I want to add. So I'm going to go back to my project. I'm going to scroll back to my project settings. And now if I scroll down, I should be able to see my components. So I'm going to select that. Here we can see a full list of different components that we can enable. Let's take a couple of simple examples. I'll say the Jira component, and we'll do the database component as well. I'm going to navigate back to OEM. And in this, we simply replace component name 1 with Jira and component name 2 with database. Now we're not done yet. We do need to make sure that this array of components is uncommented out. But after we're done here, now every time we create a Jira incident ticket from OEM, it will include both the component Jira and database. Now we have 2 here for an example, but if you didn't need to, for example, let's say you just wanted it to be the Jira component, you could delete one of these objects. Or if you wanted to add a third one, you could copy and paste and keep adding more components. You're not limited to 2. Now, by default, we have a whole bunch of these already enabled. All you have to do is comment them out and configure them like I just showed you. However, Jira also allows users to have a whole bunch of custom fields that they can enable. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to scroll up into our create, and I'm just going to create a little blank line right here. And this is where we're going to add our own little custom field. But first, we have to go take a look at what that looks like in Jira. So let's scroll back to Jira. And to look at our custom fields, we're going to go to the administration, so settings, and then click issues. We're then going to go to custom fields. And here you can see a long list of all the custom fields that are set up within my Jira instance. So I can kind of click through here and we can look at all the different custom fields that my Jira has active. Now, severity seems like a good one to add. So let's click on severity. We can see some details about it. Actually, I'm going to click out of this and go over to the right and click the triple dots and click edit details. Now, I'm not going to actually edit anything about the severity field. What I am going to do is in our URL here, we need to copy this ID, this 1043. So I'm going to copy that. Then we're going to go back to our OEM and we're going to add our first custom field. So I'm going to space it out over here. And we're going to create a new object field. We're going to give it our name. And for all custom fields, we're going to start it off with the word custom field underscore, and then that ID I just created. So we'll start with that, and then we'll give it our closing object brace as well. So now we have our field created. Now we just have to give it some values. So inside of it, we're gonna start off with a bracket. We're gonna give our string and our name, and it's gonna just be called value. And this is what allows us to put a value of severity in here. So we'll close this off again with our string. Oops. And then let's say we just want all of our severities to always be set 0. We simply put in our string now, since this is within a string bracket, and we'll just call it sev0. Now, all Jira tickets that we create, again, with the Jira incident type, will have a sev0 severity. But we probably don't want anything coming from OEM to immediately be a sev0. So this is when we're going to scroll up, and we're going to use that severity variable that I pointed out earlier. So if we scroll back down to our our custom field that we've created here, our severity, instead of just making them all sev 0, what I'm going to do is do a value of, so we're going to do an XSL value of, and we're going to select our severity variable. Make sure I spell this right. And now, instead of just making everything sev 0, it will base it off that variable that we set up above. Now, I know this might seem a lot and seem a little bit confusing, but if you scroll just above that body that I pointed out earlier, we actually have a very large comment that goes through and explains exactly how to do all of this, including the custom fields and the severity example I just talked about. Now, let's say we want to save that. We made a little change to priority. We added in our severity variable and our components variable. So let's click save. And we're going to say yes. And we're going to see our template has edited successfully. Now, editing templates can be an extremely powerful tool to let you customize the integration to work perfectly in your environment. But let's say something goes wrong and you want to just default back to what you originally had. To do that, you can select the Jira incident, create an update, so the one we just edited, and click the restore button. The restore will always bring you back to the default from when you installed the integration. So we'll click yes. And now all those changes that we just made have been reverted back to the defaults. And that's it. Thank you for taking a look at the Jira template modification video.